afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, welcome to this second installment of the Keep Learning series conducted by Leaders of Tomorrow. And this is yet another online session, free for all. And we welcome you on behalf of Leaders of Tomorrow to this webinar. Before we begin, I'm Kavishka and I'll be the Zoom host of this session, which is just a fancy way of saying that I'll be taking care of all the technical aspects of this program. And before we kick things off, I have a few requests to make from the participants. The first is that we are trying to minimize data usage all around. So because of that, I request all the participants of the webinar to please turn off their video and audio. And if you have any questions, you can direct them through the chat. But when you're doing so, make sure that you are addressing the chat message to everyone. In both PC and mobile, you have these different options to address them to certain people. Make sure you address any questions to everyone. And if you're asking a question from a certain panelist, let us know who the panelist is. So you can simply type to panelist name and then your question. That will make things easier for all of us going forward. And I have another special request for the panelists. It's that when you start, before you start speaking, please pin my video. If you're on mobile, double tap on my video. If you're on PC, right click on pin video. That way you can see the timing devices and we should be good to go. Now, today's panel discussion will be moderated by Dr. Prabhat Karunanayaka. Dr. Prabhat Karunanayaka is a medical doctor by training and a human resource developer by practice. And he holds an MBA in human resource management and an MSc in business psychology. He also has a postgraduate qualification in occupational safety and health and psychology. Now, he passionately works towards building the capacity of youth and adults. Through his flagship program, Leaders of Tomorrow, he shares the message of personal leadership and life success. He also conducts leadership development programs at schools and universities, and through this, he has reached more than 3,000 students with his message up to now. So to moderate this panel discussion, I hand the control over to Dr. Prabhat Karunanayaka. Over to you.
Thank you, Kavishka. So let's start. Good evening to all of you, the participants of this second installment of the Keep Learning panel discussion conducted by Leaders of Tomorrow online. 5 years ago, when I founded the Leaders of Tomorrow program to empower the next generation into becoming competent, confident, and compassionate adults, I never thought that it would lead to this scenario. Up to now, we have conducted about 13 workshops, and I have also conducted numerous programs at schools and universities as well. All of these were outdoor activity-based programs. We conducted our last workshop on the 21st of February, and plans were set for the next two programs, one on the 15th of March and the next one was 7th of April. And we all know what happened after that. We could no longer ask you to come to our programs, but instead we decided to come to you. This is the fifth in the series of online knowledge sharing and skills development sessions conducted by Leaders of Tomorrow online. Whether it be a new skill you have or a skill you have always wanted to learn, or an old hobby you have been meaning to pick up back again, now is the perfect time to busy yourself and make your time in this self-isolation worthwhile. We have lined up experts in 3 different fields to share knowledge with you. I welcome all of you to sit back and enjoy the next 90 minutes. The topic for today's discussion is keep learning during lockdown and beyond. So what is learning to begin with? Psychologically, learning could be defined as a relatively permanent change in behavior as a result of experience. As you can see, learning is fundamentally a behavior change. Something changes due to what you experience. And this brings us to the importance of skill development as a part of the learning process. If you can recall the 3 objectives of learning, what we call as KSA, knowledge, skills and attitude. So skills is part of the whole education process. Whether it is to expand one's horizon or to boost employability or simply for pleasure, skill development plays a major role in a child's development. Now, as opposed to times when teenagers were busy with school and friends and whatever hobbies they had, outdoor activities, they now have a lot of free time on their hands. And every parent, I believe, is struggling with the idea of their child not being able to spend their time constructively during this time. I have 3 kids on my own, and I know what a struggle that is to keep them occupied. Enrolling them to an online class or making sure they work out are some things that some parents do. However, parents can also take this time to make sure their teens and children, young children, learn few skills. Skills that they would invariably need when they grow up as adults. Parents can use this time to teach their kids and often themselves even new skills during this period. As I mentioned earlier, we have lined up 3 experts in 3 different fields, namely baking, grooming, and gardening. Each panelist will give a general account of the subject, which will be followed by some questions. And as Kavishka mentioned, you in the audience are welcome to pose questions to the panelists by using the chat panel. First, type your name, then the panelist to whom you are directing the question, and finally the question very briefly. And we will try to entertain all the questions during the program, during this 90 minutes, failing which we will get the panelists to answer them and share all the answers in the WhatsApp group. So either way, you will get your questions answered. Right. The first topic for today's discussion is baking. Who wouldn't love to get their hands on a yummy chocolate cupcake or a tasty creamy donut? We all have enjoyed the delicious taste of baked items, haven't we? Whether at home or elsewhere, all of us have enjoyed those things. Baking has a secondary benefit. Other than eating those mouth-watering delights, the benefit is the process of baking itself. That is rewarding. To talk about baking, we have Mrs. Prabodhini Seneviratne. Prabodhini started her career as a management accountant, but 12 years ago, gave it all up to become a stay-home mom to her 2 little kids. During that time, she regained her love for baking, which she used to do since she was a schoolgirl. With friends cheering her on, slowly the hobby grew into a home business, and now she is the proud owner of Trickles Cakes. She recently became a certified cake decorator and specializes in custom cakes for all special occasions. She's a distinguished Toastmaster who has been the club president at SEMA Toastmasters and area director of Area E5, and now functions as assistant director, program quality of Division E. Prabodhini, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhat, for that lovely introduction. Good evening, everyone. Hope all of you hear me clearly, Prabhat.
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. So Prabhat basically gave you a background to the presentation that I am supposed to do. So this lockdown period, we've had our routines turned upside down, and we were supposed to find something to keep ourselves occupied. And I suppose there were new skills that we, all of us, ventured upon, learned, experimented on. And I believe baking was one of the most common and easy skills that many tried to acquire during this period, because baking, after all, is related to food, and certain food that we had taken for granted was now not available, which meant that we had to try and make it at home. So I believe most of you young kids out there and the mummies and daddies who are joining in did give a hand at baking. I suppose most of you all did. It's not like something else. This is something everyone would have tried out. But if there are people who haven't baked and who are interested, well, I'm talking to all of you. To be honest, when I was getting ready for the presentation, I remembered that my love for baking, or the beginning of my love for baking, actually started during a time like this, many, many years ago, probably about a good 30 years ago, when our country was actually in a form of a lockdown back then due to unrest, and all the children were expected to stay at home for months. And that is the time I decided to go through my mother's recipe books and try something out and enjoy with my sister and brother. And that is how my love for baking happened. So maybe there are few of you out there who would one day be talking just like me. So let's get into the presentation. What is baking? First of all, let's know what baking is. It is a way of preparing food, but it requires dry heat, which means we need an oven or an oven to make baked goodies. Whether it is a sweet item or a savory item, you need an oven. That is how baking happens. But what most of you may not know, my dear children, is that baking is a science. It is not something like making a vegetable soup for your family, where you dump all the vegetables, water, and few other ingredients, and presto, you have a vegetable soup. No, baking is far more precise. It requires precision with regard to measurement, the temperature of your ingredients, and the methodology you follow. Now, if you are confused, let me explain. Let's take the chocolate cake your mommy makes. Isn't that a little different to the chocolate cake your aunt makes, the chocolate cake your granny makes, the chocolate cake your neighboring auntie makes? For all you know, they could be using the same recipe, but the taste varies. And that is because it is a science. So when you are moving on to baking, you have to be very, very careful about how your recipe is followed. Now, what are the benefits of baking? I mean, it's almost a no-brainer. Everything you make, you can eat. And you can share it with your family members, your friends, your neighbors, and that makes them happy, and invariably that makes you happy. So baking is quite a rewarding skill to acquire. But there are also many other advantages of baking. For example, you can be very careful about what you eat. When you are baking, for example, you are in control of how much ingredients are included and the quality of the ingredients. Now, when we buy from outside, we don't know what kind of quality those ingredients are of. But when you're making it at home, you can make sure it is clean and all the best ingredients are included. Similarly, it is also a skill that will bring out your creativity. For example, if you make a cake, how you decorate it, the flavors you add into it. You can experiment. All that brings out how creative you are. Another thing is, I don't know if you will agree with me, it is also a stress buster. When I'm stressed, I always bake because it gives you this calming effect. Probably because you have to concentrate on what you do so intensely that it calms you down. So it has that calming effect when you start baking. Also, sharing what you make with others makes you very, very happy. So if you haven't already started to bake, I'm talking to you. So how do we start? Well, if you are a complete novice into this and you are a young child, it is best that you make use of your parental guidance when you're using an oven, because you are, after all, working with a very hot oven. So either you mix and get the cake batter or the brownie batter or the cookies ready and get your mummies or daddies to put it into the oven, or you do it with the guidance of your parents, because this is not a joke. It is a very, very hot oven you're using, so you have to be careful. There are also few things that you need to have when you start baking, which I would call baking essentials. For example, of course, you need to have a very well functioning oven. And you must also know what button is for what and how it functions. So before you start using it, you should have a good scale. It could be a digital scale, preferably, because you have to get the ingredients, like I mentioned earlier. Since baking is a science, measurements must be precise. So if you've got this old-fashioned scale where you have this a two-piece scale, the old-fashioned scale like your grannies used to have, or maybe your mummies have, I would say move on to a digital scale. They are widely available now, so that you will get your measurements precise. You might also use these. These are called measuring cups. Most of the American recipes call for cups. And when it says cups, it's not teacups or whatever cups you are using at home. They are actually measuring cups. You have to have measuring cups. Similarly, these are called measuring spoons. When your recipe requires teaspoons, tablespoons, they are not the spoons that you use at home. They are specifically measuring spoons for baking. Okay. It is preferable if you could have an electric beater. You don't need it, but if you have one, great. If you don't have it, that means you probably have to use your hand a little more, and it will develop a little elbow grease trying to stir the mixture, right? And then you need a spatula. This is what you call a spatula. This comes very handy when you're trying to get all the batter out of your bowl. So try to invest in a spatula if you can.
I want to get it.
Then there are a few baking trays I have here. You need to have baking trays to bake. These are called cupcake liners, which you need if you're making muffins or cupcakes. Okay, so these are a few things that you need. You might also want to get some baking paper to use. So, what are the activities that you can do? Now, if you are a complete novice and you are a beginner to baking, then I would say pick an easy recipe, such as Give me a moment. My little one is joining me. So, very easy recipes such as cookies or simple cakes, cupcakes, muffins. Those are very easy to do. Maybe even a batch of brownies, anyone can do, because as long as you follow the recipe properly, you can get good results. They're not complicated. You can get good results out of it. But if you are someone who's been baking and who is a confident baker by now, then your options are endless. You can go to town and make recipes out, from layered cakes to Swiss rolls to meringues to pies. I mean, it's endless. But few things that you have to remember is, make sure you have a foolproof recipe. A foolproof recipe and all the ingredients involved. So basically, I've given you an introduction to how to start off baking. If you have any questions, I would like to answer now.
Right. Thank you, Prabhu, for that detailed description of baking. And as I mentioned earlier, you are welcome to type your questions on the chat panel. After all the three speakers have spoken, we will take some time to entertain the questions raised by the audience. Now, Prabhu, you are an example of converting a passion into a profession. So what advice can you give anyone who is interested in expanding baking as maybe a home business? Any advice you can give?
Okay, Prabhat. Now that is a question that requires a very honest answer. There are lots of people, especially in the last 10 years or so, we have had a boom of home bakers. I'm not saying the demand for home baked goods has also not increased. It has increased, but I would say there are more home bakers in the market than the market really needs. But that does not mean that I'm discouraging you from launching your own home business. But I would like to give a few tips if you want to get into this. Don't be scared to start small. Now you will see, if you come on social media, you will see every single person baking, and they seem to be having a lot of business. But don't feel bad to start small. Start with a small customer base. And another thing is, focus on what you are good at. For example, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Find what you are good at. Example, let's say you make a really, really good chocolate brownie. Well, start your business in that. If you are really good at making a very good chocolate eclair or a chocolate donut or a donut, focus on that. Start your business on what you are good at. Now, although I started my business in normal cakes, I have moved out of it. And now I focus on making custom cakes. So I no longer am in competition with someone who is making a normal chocolate cake or a ribbon cake. So creating your own niche is very important. And give your best. Do not try to cut down on the quality or the price. Give your best and create your own customer base. It takes time, but it is far more rewarding than trying to do what everyone else is doing and then slowly dying off.
Right, Prabhu. I think you gave a very honest answer to that. And there are some questions appearing in the chat panel. We will take them at the end. One question is that some kids are asking for online resources. I think it would be best if we can identify those resources and give the links on the chat, on the WhatsApp group, because if you just say it, they might not be able to write it down. So what we'll do is we will get the resources or the websites that you can get more information, and then put it in the WhatsApp group. So thank you, Prabhu. We will get back to you with the questions. Now let's move on to the second topic of the day, grooming and makeup. Now all of us would love to look the best we can, whatever we do, wherever we go, don't we? So to talk about grooming, we have Dr. Shiru Vijayamanna. Shiru holds a doctorate in hairdressing and beauty culture from the Open International University of Complementary Medicine, Kazakhstan, and is the dean of the cosmetology faculty of the same university. She counts over 32 years of experience, out of which 28 have been in teaching. She is the founder and principal of the Swiss Finishing School and a lecturer at Salon Shiru Academy. She is also a City and Guilds external verifier for hairdressing and beauty therapy. And she is the founder president of the Save Movement Ceylon Foundation. Over to you, Shiru, to educate us on grooming and makeup.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhat. Hi, friends and parents. It's all about grooming today. Personal grooming. Now, if you ask me what is personal grooming, this is how it goes. It's an art which helps the individual to learn and maintain their body using different techniques, products, and equipment. Then, what are the benefits of personal grooming for youngsters especially? It's important for a positive self-image, confidence, and every effort should be made to encourage and assist children to maintain a pleasing and attractive appearance. Now, before we talk about grooming, it is your cleanliness that we have to talk about, which is the personal hygiene. Now, what is personal hygiene? Personal hygiene is science that deals with healthful living. It's concerned the intelligent care taken by the individual to preserve the health by following rules such as cleanliness, oral hygiene, good posture, etc. But because of the time factor, I'll be taking only the very important ones to youngsters today. First one, I would like to talk about the posture. How you sit. When you're sitting, you have to keep your feet together, knees together, and your hands are on the lap. So that's how a lady should sit, and your back straight. When you stand, this is how it should look, perfect. I will go to the next one now. See, you can see 5 defective body postures, and with that, the perfect one. Which one is the perfect one? Your head up, chin level with flow, chest up, shoulders are relaxed, and your abdomen is flat. And today, do you know, most of these youngsters, I can see them when they walk, they are hunched. Maybe because of that heavy school bag, and also they focus more on their telephone. Well, we'll talk about, when we talk about this grooming, the first thing is cleansing, I said, cleaning. So daily cleaning, you know, it involves your bathing and, you know, washing things. But I'm going to talk about something different, which is that you do a daily cleansing to groom yourself. How do we do a face cleansing? We'll talk about it first. And when I say cleansing, you need something to cleanse, which is the face cleanser, face wash, face gel, all are the same. Please don't go and buy all these 3 because people will ask you to buy, but one would do. Then shall we see what we need? What we need is just some cotton pads, cleanser. When you buy the cleanser, please buy it according to your skin type. If you do not know, just go and ask for all skin type. Then you need a toner, moisturizer, and the sunscreen. Okay, so we'll see how to do a face cleansing very quickly. I think I can show you very quickly how we do a cleansing. To do a cleansing, first what we can do is you have to wet your face. Then wet the face first, and this I'm going to show you. This is the cleanser that he's going to use according to his skin type. And we take little onto the hand, dab it, and start cleansing upwards. And these cleansers, when I say according to their skin type, please make sure, if you are not sure, to ask from somebody who knows about it. Then again, with this itself, can I quickly tell you a tip? What is the tip? Now I have little sugar with me here. When you are doing the cleansing, you can mix this sugar with your cleansing simultaneously, which you are doing a cleanser and a scrub together. Why am I using this sugar? Because sugar contains AHA, which is alpha hydroxy acid. And as you know, all of us today want to be a little fairer than we are. So when you use this, you can see your skin is glowing. Okay, so next is, now you'll have to again clearly, thoroughly wash it off and wipe. And now your face is really clean. But at the same time, if you are doing at home, please do it for 5 minutes. And not only your face, please do it on your neck area and your hands, because all these three places has to come into a one tone. So now his face is clear. And what we have done is we have opened the skin pores. So we have to close. For that, we are using a toner. Again, the toner goes with his skin, and just take it to the hand and you can just apply, or else use a button pad. You know, you can use one of these, or just use your hand. I think it's much easier, isn't it? Then once it's done, you have to apply a moisturizer. So this is the moisturizer which goes with him. Now, but suppose if you're going out, and if it is, say, afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you need to apply a sunscreen as well. What you should do is, you have to mix these together on your palm and apply it, but make sure that you apply it half an hour before you go out. Otherwise, it does not serve the purpose. Okay, apply little moisturizer. That also you have to apply upward and massage a bit. Well, when we do all these things, what happens? Now, some people, they don't like to use these products which is in shops. So then, can I also give another tip? Okay, can you see this? This is red lentils, known as paripu. We all know what paripu is, right? Take little thing, you can grind it and add water, or you can use rose water. Apply as a mask, keep it for half an hour, and start, your skin will start glowing, and you'll have to tell me the difference after about 3 or 4 days. Okay, so that's about cleansing. So once we have cleansing, what we have to do, a little makeup. Okay, now I have a message to these parents, those who are listening. Please buy a branded, well-known products if you are buying it for your children, and Also for yourself, spend little money on you. That's okay to spend little money and buy the correct skincare and the skin tone for you. Okay, you can see some of these foundations. There are cake, sticks, and liquid creamy base, and also you need powder. Powder is one is compact and one is translucent powder. Then mascara, lipstick, eyeshadow, blushes, eyeliner. So how you do is, first you apply uh, the foundation, then comes the powder, put your blusher, mascara, and you can paint your lips. But let me also tell you something. Do you know that whether you're a male or female, all the Sri Lankans, we have got beautiful eyes. I was told many a times when I travel the world. So why not we enhance it with little bit of blush, eyeshadows? Okay, do it and see how beautiful you look. Then to add that, we have to have our hair clean. Also the hairstyle. So keep it clean, have a bath every other day. But if you are going to a gym or if you are a person who's doing sports, you can have a bath every day. But keep it free from dandruff and head loss. If you have a problem of falling hair, treat it immediately. And you can buy minoxidil from a pharmacy and apply it. And your shampoo, your conditioner has to be again branded and a well-known one. Please use these only 3 times a week. Look, once we have done that, that was the free thing that you have to do a hairstyle, or I mean, if you want to blow dry, ironing, and can you see how handsome they look, don't they? Well, it's not least, but not last but least, it is the total image. You can never make the first impression for the second time. Your grooming goes hand in hand with good posture, standing, your clothes, nails, etc., etc. Okay, look at how one you do it, how good you feel about it. Look at this handsome gentleman over there. Well, I have this message for you, finally. Beauty is power and makeup is something that really enhances that, not only for women, also for men as well. Okay, what matters the most is how you see yourself. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Prabha.
Thank you, Shiru, for that wonderful presentation. Now, there might be a thought that grooming and makeup is for girls, because that has been the usual way. Now, there are a lot of boys in the audience, I know. What would you like to tell the boys who are listening to us?
You know, over the past few years, I have noticed boys are doing this much more than girls. You know, this will really help them to keep their appearance better. This is the age actually you get a lot of acne, pimples. So doing this daily routine will help them to gain confidence, to have a positive self-image and free from impurities. And also they can follow a personal grooming course or social etiquette, right? And to gain confidence. I think boys should do it more than girls.
Right. Now, what advice would you like to give to someone who aspires to get into grooming as a profession, or grooming and beauty culture as a profession? What advice can you give?
Well, Dr. Prabha, this industry is with lot of potential and very, very lucrative. It's also a ladder to migrate. I mean, as a skilled worker, you can easily get migration. And then also, gender dominance is not there. And this is the best self-employment I can tell you. And this you should, when you do this, you should not make this as a trade, but a service, a business with service, I should say. And there are courses you can follow, like even I do at my academy. Then diploma courses also at my university. We do a BSc in cosmetology. So things like that you can do and develop yourself.
Right. Thank you, Shiru. There are a lot of interesting questions appearing on the chat panel, so we will take it later at the Q&A session. Now, when you think of the word gardening, surely the first thing that comes to your mind would be something like plants grown on dusty, muddy fields. That era is gone. Now, anyone can do gardening depending on the space that is available for you, even on your tabletop, even without soil. It is important to know that gardening in any form is not just only for food, but also for the mind. To talk to you about gardening, we have with us today Dr. Chalinda Benaragan. Chalinda is a senior lecturer attached to the Department of Crop Science, Faculty of Agriculture, Institute of Peradeniya. He is currently the Director of Agriculture Education Unit of the same university. His specialty includes horticulture, floriculture, and landscape gardening. He has been serving as the chairman of the work group Post-Harvest in Emerging Countries in the International Society for Horticulture Sciences in Belgium since 2017. He holds the position of editor-in-chief in the leading agriculture journal in Sri Lanka, Tropical Agricultural Research. He is a trainer in 21st century skills as well. Above all, he's my friend from about almost 40 years. Chalinda, welcome to the discussion.
Yes.
To start off, can you give us an overview of gardening and its benefits?
Yes, Prabha. Thank you very much for inviting me for this wonderful session. I love this place. Good evening to everybody, all the children and all the parents. Yeah, first of all, as you said, the gardening is not new. The history goes back to almost like 2000, the recorded history goes back to 2500, 2600, even more. Because the written history says the formal garden or well-organized garden is from Babylon, Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders in the world, former 7 wonders. So since then, people started doing gardening, and still we are doing gardening. And interestingly, now we are doing gardening maybe in a different way. So if you talk about the benefits of gardening, of course, the first thing that comes to our mind is food, gardening for food, growing plants for food. Without doubt, yes, it's one of the most important benefits for all of us. And apart from that, people grow plants. And I must tell you here, gardening includes all the fruits, vegetables, and ornamental plants. So including all these 3 items, people say, people use a special word, horticulture. So gardening is always linked with horticulture. So, so by growing horticultural plants, we get the aesthetic benefits as well, especially with the ornamental plants. But remember, you can grow even fruits and vegetables with kind of an aesthetic appealing. There's no harm in that. So food, aesthetic benefits, and definitely we cannot forget the benefits that you get in terms of the environment. For example, you can grow plants, or if you plan it properly, to conserve the soil for soil conservation. And particularly, you can grow all your plants to thinking of the biodiversity conservation as well. Especially if you are a plant lover, if you can grow some rare plants, you are supporting, unknowingly you're supporting the biodiversity conservation as well. And at the same time, there's another very important benefit which not many people talk about. It's also an environmental benefit, that is pollution control. All our gardening, the plants that we are using in our gardens have the capacity to remediate the environment, the pollution. So the pollution from the soil, pollution from the air, you can use all your garden plants to do that job for you. to make the environment much cleaner. And then, of course, your benefits include economic benefits as well. For example, if you are a good gardener, you can sell your products if you have excess. There are many people who do that. And at the same time, if you plan it properly, if you plan your garden properly, the saleability of your land one fine day will be very much higher than non-planted garden. And finally, the most important, I will put this on top of everything. That's the psychological benefit that we get from gardening. So these are the most important benefits that we can think of.
Thank you. Now, as you might know, we are targeting this discussion for youngsters.
Yes.
We are mainly focusing our attention for children. So as a child, how can they start gardening, home gardening?
Yes, Prabha. I think this is a very, very important question because many people think when it comes to gardening, you need a special place for gardening and you need a lot of space for gardening and how to find the soil and how to find the planting materials. Can we have seeds or maybe some people don't know how to grow from a seed, and all these things are there. And specifically, some people think gardening is only for those who have studied agriculture or something. It's not. I will show you a very simple example which you can start with. My first advice is start simple. Start simple. So this is something that I do at my home. So base of a leek, right? I'm sure kids will be able to somehow convince your parents to at least to get this base, right? Because even up to the roots, usually we consume. But if you just take half an inch or maximum 1 inch would be enough to start with. So this is something that I did today. And you can see the same thing. This is about 2 weeks, just with water, nothing else. So easily you can hold it, just take better to take a transparent glass so that you will see how good or how bad the water is, because you have to be very cautious. You should not allow the mosquitoes to grow in and the bacteria to grow in. You should not allow that. So at least every 2 days, you have to change the water. That's the only thing that you have to do. And it's really nice to see when the plant is growing up. And particularly when you harvest it and when you consume it, it's your plant without a single chemical, not even a fertilizer. So that's also very important for us. And so let me share some more things that you can do. I do practice this. So let me share the screen with you all. Yeah, so sorry. So this is the same thing that I was referring to. Even if you don't have a glass like this, you can take a small shallow plate and make sure you have some water and the plant will grow for you. Similarly, even carrot tops. You can take the carrot tops and please remember this is not to eat carrots, but to eat the leaves, because carrot leaves are excellent. One of the very, very rich sources of minerals. So we can have this. And many people think growing tomatoes are very difficult and where to find seeds and so on. And my dear kids, if you can somehow convince your parents to get just a single slice of tomatoes, you will get this type of plants. This is too much for you, for your garden, because you need only 2-3 plants of tomatoes. Just a simple slice of tomato will do the job for you. And we have a huge problem in Sri Lanka. It's all about plastic. So if you can think of using these plastics for your gardening, so this is something which is very easy to do. So let me show you some more ideas to recycle your plastic material. See how beautiful the vases are. Just your used plastic material. All these are your bottles, for what you simply throw it away. And I'm sure your parents are having a huge problem of throwing these off. It's not that easy. Even somebody collects this, even your municipal council collects this. Still, we have a problem of recycling in Sri Lanka. We are not that good in terms of recycling yet, right? So you can use all your plastic bottles in these forms. See, the simple water bottle, even this 500 milliliter water bottle can be used as a container with a little bit of soil. Any soil is fine. I personally believe any soil is fine to grow your plants, only if you can maintain the water properly. Not too much, not less, both. See how beautiful, even at the entrance of your house, you can have all your gardening plants, not necessarily ornamental plants, even your leaf vegetables or any other vegetable can be grown here. See the tops of maybe not to name the commercial trade names of brands, but your fizzy drinks. So these are some of the things that you can do. See the vertical garden that you can make for limited space people, and you can make it funny and you can make it fancy, and you can have it on your tabletop, provided that you have sufficient light to grow. Yeah, this is also something very important. If you want to grow your plants, make sure you have sufficient sunlight, because if the light is not sufficient, even if you add a lot of fertilizers, a lot of water, that won't make any difference to the plant. Number one is sunlight. And used tires. I'm sure your fathers, your parents may be having a lot of used tires which you cannot do anything with. So these are some of the options for you all. Simple. And to be more professional, you can buy your own. I'm now referring to mostly the kids. If you can make your own container using simple wood. And then I think this is also a little challenging. Good to have these kind of challenges for the leaders to be. And you can make these small containers or troughs and have all your vegetables, because I know for some people, handling the pests, especially like snails, which not many people like it, and maybe rats. In some places, even in Kandy, I'm from Kandy, even here we get the problem of porcupines. Interesting, but they are. So this is one of the nice options to get away from that kind of a thing. Yeah, so advice is start simple and no limit for you all to go.
Thank you, Chalinda. Now, I've seen some interesting concepts coming up in gardening. I've read and I've seen on the internet as well. So what's new in gardening?
Yes, Prabhat. Once again, we can think of, because again, I'm telling you, I'm telling all the participants, when you think of gardening, everybody's thinking of growing plants just on the ground, horizontally, without thinking much about it. But now, the latest trend in the world is vertical planting. Vertical planting. Even in Colombo, there's a huge plant factory. Maybe not many people know about it, which is in a very limited space. It's just, I can't exactly remember how the size of the space, but even commercially, you can use this vertical space for growing plants. So this is one of the latest trends in the world, use of vertical space. So I'm sure you can see how simple the structures are, right? So the kids can get this work done from the parents, or even you can do it by yourself. Good to learn all these technologies, very simple things. So you can use gutters. I'm sure there are many used gutters for these. Typically, I'm sure some of you must have heard about the word hydroponics. Hydroponics is growing plants with water. So this means now you don't need soil. Maybe just water, or maybe some material to hold the plant. For example, just coir dust, if you can find it, or even soil is fine. the trend is to go to move away from the soil, because it's not that easy to control the nutrient uptake by the plants when you grow on the soil. So commercially, if you're thinking of commercial ventures, this vertical type of gardening is very popular. So this is also a simple vertical structure that you can think of. As you can see here, the nutrient flow is from the top to bottom in a zigzag way, and it's recycled. So if you are good with some engineering work, you can have a small pump and you can circulate the nutrient solution through this system. Very simple technology. If you can search, if you can Google hydroponics, it's not hydroponics. Many people pronounce it as hydroponics, but it's hydroponics, right? So get the vertical gardening, the latest trend, and vertical columns. Again, this is also very common in the world now. And vertical bags. This is also something that you can start at your home easily. The kids, if you can ask your mothers to support you to stitch it and make it very nice in this way. Yeah, this vertical gardening is a latest trend. And these are called green walls. This is also another latest trend in the world. The green walls. For this, you need to have, you need to think of some special things, which I'm not going to discuss now. But if you, those who want to find more information, you can just search green walls. You get so many articles, so many journal articles published, research work published, or simple do-it-yourself things, and there are many nice YouTube videos as well. Of course, very new trends, because the psychological benefit and the physiological benefits that the plants can give, especially the plants that can give us a lot of oxygen, you can take with you. So especially for the girls, good thing to start with. And I'm sure the kids, if you can make these kind of things, there's a huge market. Even in, I'm sure in Colombo, there will be a huge market. So you can think of to become a good entrepreneur as well. See how different the thinking is. Not the simple, not the normal pot, but it's a totally different way of thinking. And so far, the world has thought to grow the plants upright because of the gravity. Many people think the plants grow from bottom up direction, but now this upside planting is also possible. Particularly, tomatoes can be grown in this way very easily, even in your office space. For the parents, I'm telling you, for the office spaces, or even at your home, you can grow like this. Only thing is you need to modify your pot a little bit, because from the top only you add water and other things if you add some fertilizers, but the bottom should be covered so that the soil won't come down. And finally, you can think in this way as well. World moves because of creative thinkers. The whole world moves forward just because of people like this. Very different thinking. I don't say there's a specific use here, but it's funny, but totally different thinking. For example, if your plant is so expensive, then you can take it wherever you go. Thank you, Prabha.
Right, I think you touched on some very interesting areas. The pendants, I think, will be very interesting thing to have. Now these days we are experiencing a tough time. The children are getting bored and the parents are becoming stressed, so it's a difficult time. So can gardening be used as a remedy for all these difficult situations?
I would say, of course, yes. Because gardening has a totally different side which we don't utilize up to now. There's a concept called horticulture therapy. That means you use the therapeutic value of plants, you use the therapeutic value of gardening to make our minds free, to make our minds relaxed. So very especially in a pandemic situation like this, where people are stuck in homes, where you don't have any other work to do, this gardening will, maybe you don't know it, but this gardening will give you that therapeutic benefit of the plants. So those who want to study more, you can find information on horticulture therapy. That's something extremely important for all of us to know about it and to practice it. Unfortunately, I'm not very sure in Sri Lanka there are specialized horticultural therapists. I had some exposure when I was in Japan. So I'm always encouraging everybody to become horticulture therapists, at least for some. And if you can get together with people like Prabhat, medical doctors, so that you can embed all the good medicinal things and the plant things, agricultural things together and have, because very recently I was thinking of suggesting the most famous doctor these days, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, to have this kind of a horticulture program island-wide, at least to cater to the elderly group in Sri Lanka, because this is very important. Not many people know how their mindset is. So please, I'm encouraging all of you to think more on this therapeutic value of plants. And at the same time, there's another very important benefit that's called phytoremediation. Maybe the word is a little difficult, but it's phytoremediation. Phyto is plants, remediation means giving solutions. So use of plants to give solutions. What is that solution? It's the environmental pollution control. So for example, if you can have some plants like Sansevieria, I'm not very sure you know the plant, but that's all right. All the plants have this phytoremediative potential. Only thing is we need to identify which plants are suitable for which purposes. A good example is the very common Valcohila, botanically known as Syngonium. That Valcohila plant has the capacity to absorb many toxic pollutants from air. So if you can have some plants of the very underutilized Valcohila plants in your house, definitely that will add some benefit to you in controlling your air pollution. And finally, especially for the kids, I'm telling you, there are many research evidences to show the memory power improves, especially for the studying students. The memory power drastically improves when you're with the plant. So I'm encouraging the students, those who study all the time, at least to have one plant on your tabletop with you. Make sure you support the plant for the growth. Otherwise, the plant will die in 2-3 days, right? Because the plants can improve your memory for sure. Already proven in the world. So these are the things that I can share with you all for the time being. Thank you, Prabhat.
Thank you very much, Shalinda. Right now, I see a lot of questions popping up in the chat panel. We will take them up in a few minutes. I let you relax for a while until I come back to the questions once again. So thank you again, Shalinda. Sure. Now, in addition to the 3 panelists, there's a special guest joining us today. We have with us Zainab Hameen, a grade 13 student of Ladies College, Colombo, who has been passionate about baking from a young age, a topic that we discussed earlier. So I would like to invite Zainab to share her story. Over to you, Zainab.
Thank you, Dr. Prabhat. So good evening, my fellow parents and my dear colleagues. How many of you know what baking is? Well, baking is an amazing hobby. It's not just about eating delicious sweets or food items you and your parents bake, but it is the creativity, love, compassion, and of course the taste put into the sweet being made. When I was 14, I used to watch a lot of cake programs that would appear on TV. And believe me, when it was on, I wouldn't let anyone turn the channel off. So you can imagine me sitting and watching how those compassionate and talented human beings brought magnificent taste to those sweets they made. Then it struck me. In my mind, I was thinking, I'm talented, one way or another. Why not give it a go? So the next day, I woke up and sprinted excitedly to my mom and told her, I want to bake. So we got supplies, and the first thing we made was the butter cake. And for the very first cake I made, it was delicious, and my family couldn't get enough of it, literally. So basically, I had to bake another cake the next day because my family had finished it the day before. So, well, as life goes on, my mom put me into a cake class called Cakeaholics, where I was taught by an amazing woman called Miss Anusha, who honestly, I feel like made the best cakes in the entire world. Well, as the class was nearing its end, we had a little competition. We had to bake a 3-tiered cake, and that basically had 3 different types of cakes stacked into 3 layers, and we had to decorate it in a suitable theme chosen by the contestant. So this was the cake I had made. Well, following that passion, I made many things actually. I made brownies, pineapple gateaus, a sweet birthday cake for my aunt, red velvet, strawberry cake, biscuit pudding, and now I'm in the process of making cheesecake for my brother because he's bugging me for a really long time. Okay. Well, baking has helped me boost my creativity, my stress levels. It can help you guys also in many ways. So, what I would suggest everyone over here to do is do baking, like bake your own food items because it will help you boost in your own creativity, maybe increase your hand-eye coordination, or as if you want, even you can just make for the fun of it because you maybe like it. So be passionate about what you love to do and bake till your heart's content. Do it out of love. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab, for that very inspirational story of yours. And I know for a fact there are a lot of kids, and going by the questions that I received, that there are a lot of interested children out there. So hopefully they'll pick up something from this discussion and build on that interest. So now let's move on to the questions which you have raised, and I have loads of questions. We might not be able to answer all, but let's see how many we can answer. This is for Prabodhini. I hope you are there, Prabodh.
Yes, I am.
Right. Now, there's a question from Janupa.
Okay.
That he doesn't have an oven at home. Is there another option?
Okay. Well, like I said in my presentation earlier, baking is primarily to do with an oven. I have seen recipes where they've done cakes in the microwave, the pressure cookers, but to be very frank, I have not done it. What I can tell Januka is convince your, I believe it's a little boy, convince your mother to buy a small oven. They're not very expensive, and you can start off with a small oven. Now, when I started my baking, I had a very small oven, and which I still continue to use. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to get yourself an oven, and frankly, what it can do for you supersedes the investment that you make. So, Januka, I'm not trying to tell you to find alternatives, because which I haven't tried, I won't go and ask you to do. my suggestion is to invest in a small oven.
Right. There's another now. I think this from Tharul. I think he's into the subject because what he's asking is, does sugar make sweets hard?
Okay, I saw this, Prabhat. Now, I don't know what he is speaking about. Sugar can be used in variety of ways. If he's talking about making sweets, like let's say milk toffees or any type of toffee, yes, sugar does make it hard. But sugar is primarily one of the most important ingredients in any cooking. I mean baking anything sweet. So it does react in different ways. Now in cakes, it doesn't make the cake hard by putting it. Actually adds in moisture and height to the cake as well as gives sweetness to the cake. So I'm not sure what he's referring to, but if it is talking about toffees, yes.
Right. And I think there's again a technical one about the temperature and the time. I think if you get hold of a recipe, the recipe will tell you the temperature and the timing that it should be baked, right?
Exactly, Prabhat. And also few things that you must remember is that all your ingredients have to be at room temperature when you're baking. If you cannot take the eggs out of the fridge and put it into your cake and expect the cake to be a success. So these are little tips that really will affect your end result. So temperatures, the methodology you follow, the measurements are crucial to a successful baked product.
Because I know by experience it happens with my family. They start doing preparing something and it ends up something totally different because maybe the ingredients were not properly done or temperatures were wrong or something. So I think do you think probably will we be able to post some useful websites for them in the WhatsApp group?
Yes, I am not a person who uses a lot of websites, but I can certainly help them with a few which I follow.
Sure. So then we will post them up in the WhatsApp group. So thank you, Prabhu, for answering those questions. Now let's move on to Sheru. Shiru, right, okay, you are here.
Yes.
There's a very interesting question.
Yes.
There was this the world famous singer Michael Jackson, and the stories that he died because of plastic surgery and whatever things he has done to his face. There are some news. So can this makeup and all these things be dangerous? The question is by Janupa. Yes.
Yeah, well, plastic surgeries are dangerous if you do it more than required. That's number one. Maybe you can do it for once, twice, not more than once or two. Not more than that. But as a beautician, I normally don't recommend the knife on your skin.
Right. Yes. Okay. I think we have so many things to do before you go for that last resort of plastic surgeries, right? I mean, you can get beautiful by doing various other things, right?
Yes.
And there are two questions about falling hair. If you can give a general answer, I think about someone is asking, Krishal is asking whether there's a herbal treatment. Then Fatima is asking, like, is it to do with psychological problems that you lose hair and so on?
Yes. Yeah. Now, Dr. Prabhat, this is a very common thing among us, falling hair. But some people, they mistake falling hair for regrowth as well. Normally, the hair growth is, the hair's lifespan is 2 to 4 years. So just after 2 years, the old hair has to fall. So normally in a day, it's about 25, it's okay. If it is more than that, only you have to be concerned. So coming back to this, actually there are herbal treatment, you can do it at home. Number one is our coconut oil. People, I don't see use coconut oil on their hair because you have to oil your hair. Like what the said, for the garden, we need water and fertilizer. So is our hair. please use at least coconut oil is the best, 3 times a week, but a little bit hot, and use it. Massage at least for 5 minutes, leave it for half an hour, then wash it off. Also, you can, if you ask me a remedy, just to do it at home, best is egg white. Kikirindia, I mean, you can buy it from this Behet Kade powder, then fenugreek powder, mix it. You can apply after the massage, wear it as a mask for about half an hour. If you can apply high frequency for 5 minutes, that's the best. And you have to keep on doing at least for about 3 months, twice a week. So that's very easy. And the other question about alopecia, of course, it's a skin condition. Normally this skin condition, it's an autoimmune one. So these hair losses occurring and on patches. So what we call the single is undugowahan. So for that, the best remedy, normally in Western medicine, there is no remedy. You have to just wait, do so many things. But what I know is you can take this Navahandi, if you all know what it is, take the juice out of that and take the cobweb, mix it with that, apply on those places. And that's the best remedy that in my experience. And then psychologically, if it is affected, of course, don't let that define you, who you are. So you have to have confidence, right? And nobody is going to look at your hair whether there are round patches or not. Just walk straight. That's about it.
Right. Thank you, Shiru. And I'd like to move to Chalinda with a few questions. If you are with us, yes, Chalinda. Now, there's a question from Asil, I think one of our Zoom masters. Now, when growing carrot leaves and leaks in water, should they be planted in soil after a few days, or can they remain on that water media till you harvest?
Yes. Thank you for the question. Two ways. You have two options. One is you can have it like this until you harvest it. You can have it like this. Only thing is you have to change the water maybe once every 2 days, once every 3 days. When you see the water color is changing, that's the time for you to change. And if all of a sudden if you see some mosquito larvae swimming inside, definitely you have to change it. So otherwise, there's no any harm of having water. No problem. You can leave it as it is. And at the same time, if you have some soil, if you have some space, you can transfer this maybe after 1 or 2 weeks to the soil. That is also a possibility.
Right. Then that is stemming from that question. There's another conclusion of that. Now, most plants, the plants to grow, they need a lot of minerals and some other things as well. So when you are planting it only on water, do we have to add those things outside, or will the water suffice?
Well, once again, I must tell you, the leeks or celery or something of this nature, even onions, which have a very, very smart base. The true stem is here inside, right? For example, if I just take this out, the true stem is somewhere here in the bottom. So the true stem carries a lot of nutrients to support the plant growth. When the green leaves come in, the leaves will start producing photosynthesis or the plant for food for plant, and that is enough to support the plant for shorter period. I don't say good enough for several months, but that's good enough. Even without having any fertilizer, you can use it for several weeks without any problem. But if you grow on soil, that is much more easier, I would say, because you don't need to change the soil time to time, because the soil, any soil will have some nutrients, except just the sand, right? Totally sandy soils don't have any nutrient, but any soil, other soil, clay soils, or any soil that you find in Colombo will have some nutrients to support the plant growth. But at the same time, I'm sure you can find a lot of green leaves. So if you can chop the green leaves, even to this kind of a setup, if you can chop some green leaves and put the liquid into it, a little bit, that will be the fertilizer, especially the nitrogen will be supplied by those green leaves to the plant. So it's very similar to the compost making. In compost making, we allow the leaves to decay gradually. But even the green leaves, you can add to the plants to support. If you add green leaves, you have to chop it and add the solution for the plants. And in water, you can support the plant more by adding a little bit of sugar, very little, maybe few, I would say just half, not even half, maybe quarter of a small spoon would be enough to support the plants. And if you can have some coconut water, I'm sure coconut water is totally wasted in Sri Lanka, which is an excellent drink. I'm not referring to king coconut, I'm referring to coconut. So you can drink it, and at the same time, you can use it to support your plant growth. And apart from that, whatever the fizzy drink that you use, sorry to name these commercial names, but specifically Sprite and 7-Up like drinks, lemonade like drinks, few drops of that will support the plant growth.
Perfect answer, Chalinda. And my friend Rice has raised the question, how can we grow plants with only water without soil? I think in your speech, you touched upon a whole new area where you plant without only with water, right?
Yeah, I think we answered the question, I guess.
Yes, right. Then there's Fatima is asking, what is the best advice to grow roses in Colombo?
I think she's referring to the roses that they see in Nuwara, Bandarawela, Badula-like areas.
I think so, yes.
So if you think of those roses, my advice is roses is not for Colombo because of the low temperature requirement for those roses. But still you can enjoy roses because you can find a lot of roses which are sold everywhere in Colombo. For example, if you go to Diatoyana, there are so much of roses that you can buy. My simple advice is you can grow roses not for eternal, not for 10, 20 years. So try to enjoy the plant. Don't worry even if the plant dies. So you buy the rose plant from a place and grow it. I'm sure that plant will give you 2-3 flowers continuously for maximum of 1 year, and thereafter you will find no flowers because roses are not for Colombo. So don't worry. So that's the life. That's the uncertainty of the life. Enjoy that as well.
And one last question, Chalinda, before we close up the session.
Sure.
Now, this is from Imet, student from Nalanda. What can we do to protect the plants from animals, maybe snails or even monkeys, like the plants get damaged by the animals? Is there anything which we can do?
So there are many categories now, right? For example, if you want to protect your plants from snails, some commercial products are also there in the market, which you can use to avoid, not to kill the snails, but to protect from coming into your plants, right? So we call it as repellents. One easy thing that you can use in your home garden is you can use ash, the burnt something, the plant material, or even paper. After burning, you get some dry ash. So you can use those ashes around the plant so that the snails cannot come into the plant. That's the easiest way to protect from the snails. So I personally, I never recommend to kill those snails or animals or whatever. When you think of monkeys, I would say there's no remedy to protect the plants from the monkeys. My personal advice is try to enjoy that as well. It's the nature. So if you are a plant lover, you should not try to protect all your plants from other components of the nature. That is also a part of the, for example, when I grow my plants, or when the university, I'm from Peradeniya University, we also have farms. University has some farms. Even when some pest attack comes, some diseases come, I personally don't, I know this is a serious issue when you do it commercially, but for home gardeners, my advice is try to enjoy that as well. That's the life. So,
Thank you,
I
Chalinder.
never recommend any chemical to be used at homes, because that will have some more effects on us as well. Remember, when a chemical kills an animal or a small pest, that partly kills us as well. So don't worry, you never use, try to use repellents, but not try to use anything to kill those lovely creatures on nature.
Thank you, Chalinder. Wise words coming from someone who really loves the nature and really wants to be part of nature. Thank you.
Sorry, Prabhat, can I disturb you for a while?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I'm sure all the participants can see the Shiru's background. It's water, right? The plants are in water. See? I don't know how it happened, but coincidence. So it's there.
Right. Yes. Yes. So actually, I didn't notice, because we did a couple of rehearsals as well, but I didn't notice the background. So you have a good attention to detail, Chalinder, right? So I would like to thank the three panelists, Prabodhini, Shiru, and Chalinder, for sharing some wonderful thoughts, which the children as well as the parents would learn a lot from. And it is up to you now. Now we have given the impetus for you to take up a new skill, a hobby, a therapy, various things. So it's up to you to, and I heard that the schools are going to restart somewhere on the 15th, hopefully, but still you have maybe 2-3 weeks. But the best thing is, if you get into something during this time where you have time available, that will become a habit. So then that even when you get back to your normal way of life, it will continue. And I would like to thank not only the panelists, but also our guest, Zainab. So, but what we have done is to only scratch the surface of 3 subjects. You have to dig deep. And there are enough resources, but as I promised, what I will do is I will get the details, the websites and all the resources from the resource persons. And I will answer, I will put them up in the WhatsApp group. And if there are any questions which we were not able to answer, we will definitely get the panelists to answer them and put them up in the chat panel. So, and after the session, I will share the contact details of the panelists and the guests after obtaining their permission, if you want to contact them further. And apart from the panelists, I'd like to thank the participants. There were close to 50 participants attended this session. And I know that there's a plethora of webinars happening. So amidst all those things, I thank all the participants who took the time to be with us. It shows that you have an interest to learn and to develop and to grow. Now, our next program will be next week. Again, that will be Keep Learning session 3, and the third and the last session, where I'm thinking of different subjects, maybe something like interior design, where you can decorate your home, and maybe a bit of coding, where you can do it as a pastime. So I'm still putting up the panel, but definitely it will be an interesting panel, just like what you witnessed today. So keep the date free again, next Friday, 6:30. And we have a growing community of LOT online participants. Now it's about 220. So those who have joined our session today for the first time, I'm going to add you to that group. It's called LOT online participants, and you will receive everything. And hopefully by tomorrow morning, I'll be able to upload the full recording of the session. And maybe in a few days' time, after the third session also is done, I will put up a transcript of all the sessions we had as an article, LinkedIn article. So you will have enough resources to fall back on. And there's going to be a feedback form. It's a Google document, Google Doc. And I will send the link again within a few minutes or maybe a few hours. Please fill it up. It won't take more than 4 or 5 minutes maximum. And it helps us a lot because you can propose topics you would like to be discussed in the future and various things. So please give us your valuable feedback. And so that's about it. And the panelists and the guest speaker, please remain in the meeting after the meeting is closed, after we conclude this. And others, once again, a very big thank you for all the participants, and you are free to leave. Thank you for joining and keep learning.